Welcome back, and let's continue with our lesson. So now we are going to be going into the first part of our lesson, and that is factorizing trinomials. So we are going to start by factorizing trinomials in the form x squared plus bx plus c. So the trinomial form that we're going to be working with, that's x squared plus bx plus c. And an example of these are x squared plus 3x plus 2. It is in that form of x squared plus bx plus c. Or x squared plus 6x plus 8. It is an example of that form there. Or we have a p squared plus 8p plus 24. Now this is when our variable is a p, but it still represents the same form of x squared plus bx plus c. Let's see how we can factorize this trinomial in this form. Remember, factorizing means we are finding the factors of this trinomial. So we are going to look at it using two methods. The first, there is a last example of a trinomial, which is a negative 8k plus 15 plus a k squared. Now, if you remember properly, that trinomial has to be in standard form. So can you see the form that we've placed it in up here? That is x squared plus bx plus c. So if I rearrange that, then that is going to be a k squared minus the 8k plus the 15. And that is now in the proper format. Let's go on to those two methods that I spoke about for factorizing these trinomials. So factorizing trinomials method number one, that is expanding the middle term. So when we factorize a trinomial in the form x squared plus bx plus c, we follow the following steps. So an example here is x squared plus 3x plus 2. Step number one, we are going to express the values of b as two terms instead of just one. Now, if you're asking yourself which one is the value of b, do you remember this form that we wrote down here? We said that this form is x squared plus bx plus c. So the value of b is the one there that is the coefficient to the x. So in this case, our b is the 3. So we are going to express that 3 using two terms instead of just one. How are we going to do that? Now, we are saying here x squared plus 1x plus 2x plus 2. What happened here? The middle term, or the value of b, has been expressed as two terms instead of one. So this was initially a 3x, and it is now a 1x plus a 2x, because 1x plus 2x is 3x. So that is how it is expressed there. What is the next term? We are going to group the terms into two groups and factorize by finding the common factor. So how are we going to group these into two terms? So remember, we have this expanded version where we've expanded the middle term. Then what are we going to do? We are going to group them into two terms. Let me show you the into two groups. We're going to group them into two groups. And the two groups that we are going to use are those ones. In each of the groups, we are going to find the common factor. So we're going to look at the first two, find the common factor, look at the second two, find the common factor. But you already know how to find the common factor. So here we have it. In the first group, we've taken out a common factor x. And then after dividing each term with that common factor, we are left with x plus 1 in that bracket. We go over to the second bracket, we have 2x plus 2, and the common factor there is 2. Then how are we going to, what are we going to be left with? We are going to be left with x plus 1. So now we've taken out the common factor in two of those groups. Now we have two terms. And when we have two terms, we can see there is a common bracket. So because there's a common bracket there, I'm going to take it out as a common factor, which is my x plus 1. And then when I divide the first term with the common factor, I am left with just the x. And when I divide the second term with the common factor, I am left with a 2. And that is how you factorize that expression. Now to check if really it is going to give us this trinomial that we started with, we can quickly multiply that. So we have x multiplied by x, that is x squared. Then we have x multiplied by 2. We are adding there, so that's going to give us a 2x. Then we are still adding, we have a 1 multiplied by x, that is a 1x. And then we have a 2 multiplied by 1, that is a 2. The two middle terms are like terms, so that means we have x squared plus, that's 2 plus 1, which gives us 3x, and that gives us a plus 2. Can you see how this trinomial is the trinomial that we started with just now? So we have factorized that trinomial. That is the first method. If we look at the second method there, that is the trial and improvement method. So how are we going to use this method to factorize in the same format, x squared plus bx plus c? So that is going to be the following steps. Step 1, we have there our trinomial. So we are going to list the factors of c. Again, if you are asking yourself which one is c, just remember the form that we spoke about in the beginning, and then the factors of c, or the value of c, will be that constant there, which is the last term there. So what's going to happen here? The factors of 2, we have a positive 1 and a positive 2, or a negative 1 and a negative 2. Both of these are factors of 2. So now of the listed factors, find the pair of factors that adds up to the value of b. So between these two pairs of factors, I want the one that when I add them, they are going to give me the middle term, which is the positive 3, or the 3 that is being added there. So which of the factors give me a positive 3 when I add them? Yes, it is going to be the positive 1 with the positive 2. So how am I going to use that to my advantage? So we can see that the value of b is the 3. And that is going to come from the positive 1 plus the positive 2. That's the pair that I have chosen there. So we are going to open two brackets, place x in each of the bracket as the first term, and then each of the identified factors as well. So that is going to be now opening two brackets, and then each of the bracket is going to have x, and then we are going to take those two factors that we've identified, and those are the ones that are going to go into that bracket. Do you see that positive 1 and that positive 2? We're just going to write them into our brackets as you can see them there. So let's quickly go to an ad break, and then we'll see you just now so that we can factorize some more.